Hey, what is going on, everyone? Welcome into another Be the Exception podcast. We have our guest on again, Mike Egan. Thank you for coming on again, Mike.
Thanks for having me on, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. So, we're going to jump into breaking down the CrossFit season structure a little bit here this time around. We're going to break down how to start prepping for the Open, semifinals. They're bringing back quarterfinals, what type of athlete needs to be doing what during what time, as that process is kind of starting to unfold throughout the CrossFit season here. We're about a couple months away from when you really need to start prepping. And then we're also going to get into kind of some of the Masters stuff this time around, as they're going to be competing at live competitions for game spots this year, which I think is pretty cool. So, um, Mike, where do you want to start on this one?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can celebrate, or some are celebrating, some aren't, but the fact that quarterfinals is returning.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I think
I
that's a
think, I
big.
think, yeah, I think from a regular gym box perspective, that was something when I was first getting into CrossFit, something that I really looked forward to
Mhm.
because at that time, I mean, for most people who are training say 3 to 5 times a week, this is very much a potential opportunity to get a little taste of the sport
Yeah,
and have some fun with your community. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
totally. Yeah, I think it was interesting seeing it go away last year. I ran some numbers on like kind of the money that they made or didn't make from getting rid of quarterfinals last year. And from a business perspective, didn't make sense. I think they ended up losing like 4 million or something like that. And then from like a community perspective, we had so many people that were just like, I'm not going to do the open because what's the point? There's only like,
Hmm.
1,000 people maybe that are going to be competing in semifinals. But now you open it up to top 25% again that get to go on and compete at quarterfinals. And I think one of the cool things about that is like you genuinely earn your spot there. And so people are really excited to do something that they had to work hard for again. So we'll see what the numbers are, but I do kind of like the quarterfinals format. Despite not being a super big fan of online competitions, I think for the
Hmm.
general person, it really gives them general person coming 5 times a week gives them something hard to train for, which I think is always super important to have a goal written down on paper.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only speak from the box that I had trained at, but yeah, I think at the time, even when it qualified 10%, that was unique too. I mean, we could probably go a lot of different ways with this, but yeah,
Yeah,
seeing people go from maybe their first bar muscle up in the open to their
yeah,
first ring muscle up, like you don't get opportunities like that and to
yeah.
be celebrated, even though it should be celebrated in any context. Just
Right.
having that opportunity. I will say too, as well, as a competitive athlete, more weekends of online competition is just the worst. But speaking broadly to the brand, to the community, I think it's probably a net positive.
Yes, agreed, agreed. Yeah, though, man. How many times do I have to set up my camera this year? Man. So, but yeah, I think so. Getting into it, I guess maybe we start off at somebody who's looking to break into the quarterfinal scene for the first time. What what's the process kind of look like? How do we start prepping athletes for this kind of journey that they're about to? I mean, they've been going on, but really start to ramp up into.
Yeah, I think this is probably for people who are, say, they're going to the gym classes, their CrossFit classes 5 days a week or so, and then it is most likely looking like increasing your volume in some capacity. So if the gym has additional open gym slots, this is an opportunity to start working on the skills that you might not see in your regular CrossFit programming. So things like rope climbs and for a lot of people gaining more strength because
Yeah.
strength is going to be tested down the way. So, yeah, from my experience, it's going to look like for some increasing your time in the gym by utilizing some sort of open gym or starting to look at getting a coach. That's the
Yeah.
easiest way, I think. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think getting a coach, I think, is huge, especially even if you're trying to qualify for that 25%. Like getting that coach is huge. You just get directed training, I think, is the big thing.
Hmm.
I might actually kind of take it back a couple steps here and um, know where you're gonna place. I think is a big thing too. And so just if you're trying to break into the quarterfinals, you might maybe you have your open scores from last year that you can kind of compare year over year. Did I fall within that 25%? Did I not fall within that 25%? Then you can kind of make some judgments from there. Just kind of seeing, okay, have I gotten better now? Have I not gotten better? Did I take a lapse? Did I party pretty hard throughout the course of the summer or not? um, but that kind of gives you some good context for, okay, where do I need to direct my training now? Or how far out am I from this goal, and is it realistic this year to even kind of chase that goal? So I think
Hmm.
always having some sort of context around that goal is good. And honestly, like, you might take your open scores from last year, or you might just repeat those 3 open workouts in your training for the week, that open gym slot that you were talking about, and just kind of see where you stack up year over year and how much progress you made over that year. And then I think that gives you some good context for heading forward into training for open or for quarterfinals. So
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no, I very much agree with that.
yeah, and then I think from there it's kind of, what are your areas of weakness? So do you need to get stronger? Like it, I think traditionally we see a lot of engine oriented work inside of the open. That
Hmm.
first workout for pretty much any online qualifier at this point in time is just a
Yeah.
full send. You're gonna
Yeah.
be you're gonna be breathing heavy.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're not doing good on that one, you're definitely putting yourself behind the power curve on things. So, and that one is a tough one, especially for, if you've been a gym bro your entire life and just lifting weights, power lifter, Oli lifter. That one's a tough,
Hmm.
tough, tough one to come in and hit it hard. Um, and then there's always some sort of skill one as well. So like developing your skills in the past, we only have the past to kind of go off of, right? Um, in the past couple years, it's always been some sort of bar muscle up that's been in the open. I
Hmm.
think if I'm remembering this correctly, correct. I think maybe you have a better mindset on this. Uh, was the last time they did a ring muscle up in 2020? That wall ball
I
row
think
ring
so.
muscle up workout?
Yep.
No, 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 no. They did
No?
the power cleans, row toe to bar wall ball power clean ring muscle up a couple years ago.
Right. That was the AMRAP.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. So, but it's been a minute. I think that was 2022,
I think
2023.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
2000s.
it's been a minute since they've done a ring muscle up, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, just developing those skills. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent there.
No, no. No, I absolutely agree. And yeah, being humbled by one single dumbbell, even at any level,
Yeah,
if you haven't been preparing yourself from what you described there, yeah, it becomes very humbling. And yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't repeat an open workout last year with that stupid dumbbell and burpees.
yeah,
It's gotta
man.
go faster.
Yeah, that first one always just hits you so hard. So you're like, oh, I'm ready for this. I'm so fit. I've been training all year, and then it's just like, wow, I have so many insecurities about my score right now.
Yeah, you usually like to have something a little bit heavier to, quote unquote, pace for better.
Yeah,
But this is just no, like, this is practicing discomfort. This is what CrossFit loves to do, but it really
yeah,
does weed out the people who aren't willing to suffer a little bit. Of course, there's context required, and yes, preparation is more important.
yeah, yeah. So I guess one maybe once you find out kind of where you're gonna fall, find out some of your how do you figure out like, hey, do I need to get stronger for the open? Do I need to get more enduring for the open? Do I need to develop skills? Like, how much time would you also commit to some of these things? Like, if you're just going to class, would you spend an extra 20 minutes post training, extra 30 minutes post training?
Hmm. Yeah, no, it might look like a couple of extra hours per week. Again, because CrossFit tests so many different things. Like I have a list here of things that I'm good at and things that I want to get better at, and
Hmm.
it's almost this whole page here. So I think I think for a lot of people, building on movement efficiency and movement
Hmm.
economy. So just getting better at the basics
Yeah.
definitely goes a long way, because a lot of what shows up in the open isn't overly like high skill,
Yeah.
but it does require your ability to pay attention to how you're moving. And the only way to get better at that is to do more of it. So yeah, I think a lot of people, yeah, they aren't strong enough for later tests,
Hmm.
because you can only get so far in a regular strength and conditioning program if you haven't come from some other lifting sport. So yeah, there's so many things that you can be tackling there, but
Yeah.
yeah, a couple
And I
hours a
think,
week.
yeah. And I think, too, just with some of the, if we look at some of the top end of the sport as well right now, like their strength metrics are crazy. Um, and I was kind of a couple years ago. I subscribed a little bit more towards like, hey, you really have to build your engine to get up to the top level of the sport. And while I think that's still true, man, like you also like a lot of people need their strength numbers to just completely catch up to the field for them to even be, playing the sport at all. And I I'd be curious, but it almost seems like for people that are just starting the sport right now and like just coming to class, like going to class, etc., it almost seems like you obviously genetics will play a role in this, but you almost need to have some sort of structured strength training at this point in time. It's
Hmm.
not just like, hey, on Monday we snatch, on Tuesday we back squat, on Wednesday we deadlift, and then the next week it's, Zercher squat on Monday and a
Hmm.
single arm seated kettlebell press on Tuesday.
Hmm.
It almost seems like there might need to be more structure in your strength work to genuinely break into that top 25% at this point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, as we know with all periodization, we need some repeated bout efforts week to week to see if we're actually making progress.
Hmm.
I will say CrossFit does a really good job of getting people to work harder,
Yeah.
and with the right programming, usually it is smart enough to get people building a lot more hypertrophy because of
Hmm.
the amount of volume that they're sustaining within 1 hour of training. So people are maybe even accidentally just getting stronger
Yeah.
by just
Right.
getting more hypertrophy. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen that too. It's like there's some
Yeah.
people that just kind of take off and they're not really changing much. But again, there's a lot of nuance there, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was one of those people. CrossFit hypertrophies me. So, um, but yeah, I think as a general rule of thumb, you're probably looking at doing a little bit more strength work and power work. Movement quality, like you hit on, Mike, is also just so huge. Like, if you have a shit front rack, like, good luck crushing 15 thrusters at the end of a upper body pulling and thruster workout.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that's a huge point too. So,
Hmm.
um, all right, getting into maybe quarterfinals now. Like, what
Hmm.
are athletes who are like, yeah, top 25%, no issue for me. I'm gonna fall inside of the, probably 2,000, 3,000 range. They're probably taking about 7,000 people, 5,000, 7,000 people. What are athletes that are falling in that range or above? What are they looking to do to prep for quarterfinals?
Yeah. So what you said in the beginning, which is get a coach, have someone who is going to do a bit of an analysis on your current level of skill. And you also mentioned before testing previous open workouts. How did you score then versus how are you scoring right now? Because we're tested in so many different things throughout the year that it's sometimes hard to know if you've even gotten any better.
Yeah.
And even though you may have gotten stronger, just sometimes tests like that can really tell us where you're at in this current moment and then where you need to build from there. But I think, yeah, you need to have a capacity of ring muscle ups. So something like a 30 ring muscle up for time workout, seeing, can you, number one, can you get through that within, say, 10 minutes? And if not, probably be done there. And so, yeah, looking to build up on some of the higher skill gymnastics, handstand push-ups from like strict, and then, yeah, having pretty good cyclical metrics when it comes, like the rower is showed up a lot.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to have probably a pretty good 2K time for that as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
those are my thoughts.
Yeah. No, I think those are great. I also think there's something totally different about rowing for calories than rowing for meters too, and like hitting some sort of benchmark of like 50, 100, 25 even calories, or like 25 repeats on a specific clock, I think gives you some good ideas for like pacing metrics too inside of
Mm-hmm.
quarterfinals. So yeah, definitely prepping some sort of cyclical machine. I mean, we're in the bouts of fittest of the coast right now, and we got two 40 cal rows back to back inside of a workout, and it's always just like you gotta really know your paces on these things, because I mean, man, you're gonna feel great. Like, it's easy on a meters, because that 150 or 140 or 135, whatever it is, really gives you some feedback right away. And most of the time when you hop on a rower, it's that pace per 500.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when you're rowing for cows, like, it's a little bit different. And every workout in like, you're probably only doing it in a CrossFit workout most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so your pace is dictated based off of what the weird fatigue substrate you're getting from the CrossFit workout is, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I did a bunch of upper body pulling, and now I'm on the rower and I'm holding 1050 because my
Yeah.
lats are blown up.
Yeah.
Or you're like double unders and cow rows, and now I'm holding 1400 because
Yeah.
have some power. So I think
Yeah.
it's super important just to get good metrics on the rower, in regards to like cows, like you were talking about. But then, yeah, 30 ring muscle ups for time, even 20, like starting out at 10,
Mm-hmm.
bumping it
Mm-hmm.
up to 15, then 20, then 25, 30, periodization, like you were talking about, Mike. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think a good handstand walk metric or a strict handstand push-up metric too just lays in a good foundation for
Mm-hmm.
pacing structures inside of workouts.
Yeah.
And I kind of wrote down here, like, if you're prepping for quarterfinals, it's develop the skills, not just the volume in the skill, but also develop the skill, and then come around and start developing the volume in the skill. So lots of rope climbs. We've seen 150 GHD sit-ups inside of a quarterfinals workout before. We've seen 90 GHD sit-ups and 10 ring muscle-ups inside of that might have been a quarterfinals workout actually, or
Mm-hmm.
online semifinals. I can't remember which one that was. It's like 2019. It was a quarterfinal. Sorry, to qualify you for a semifinal. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's always some sort of high volume GHD rope climbs in the 10 to 15 range. We've seen 200 feet of handstand walking before and 25-foot unbroken sections. So, relying on the past, there's kind of like a develop the skill and then develop the volume in the skill. What do you think about strength metrics in quarterfinals though? Like, do you need to be stronger than in the open, or?
That's a good question. I feel like it tests more the. Well, I'm trying to think. The one year we had that clean and jerk ladder, right? Where I think it was, you start at 10 at 135 and then
Yeah, two
AMRAPed
years
at the
ago, I
end
think.
245. Yeah,
Yeah,
AMRAP 245. So like it got up to a 245 barbell. So,
yeah,
I mean, you're going to need to be able to do that.
Yeah.
for males.
Do you feel like that? And there's always some sort of squat too, right? Like some sort of max squat, or it has been in the past, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say? Like, do you think there's a difference between like a barbell battery test like that, and then like a max back squat or 4RM front squat, or different strength profiles?
Yeah, because I remember the one year we had the 4 rep max front squat,
Yeah.
and yeah, I remember during that time I was definitely more strength oriented, and I crushed that. But I think the like you said, the barbell battery work that might have more translation over, especially if you can periodize and progress on that.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yeah. So you think the barbell battery transfers over better to the sport? Is that what you're saying? Or
I think I would rather have that capacity at that time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit more barbell battery work leading into than absolute like absolute squat strength or absolute bench press strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was two examples over a couple of years where I had a good front squat, but then it just like it didn't matter because I didn't score as well on some of the other areas where I feel like a lot of the weight was shifted towards that because again, for those listening, I do come from a powerlifting background, so it's easy to want to just save a little recovery resources by going a little bit easier in some of the other conditioning pieces in my training program. But then when it shows up in a 4 or 5 test weekend, that didn't necessarily move the needle for me. Again, I'm just speaking
Yeah.
from my own experience, and then yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a little bit of a guessing game too. Like, are they going to test some weird total, or are they going to test some barbell battery this year? So like, um, it's interesting trying to prepare for both of those. Do you feel like the some of the barbell battery or strength endurance stuff you've done in training has translated over into some of your strength work? Maybe inside of your Oli lift.
yeah,
Or?
absolutely. Yeah, no, I think from like a technical perspective, um, yeah, I feel like I've I've felt more comfortable because the amount of discomfort that you're experiencing while doing strength endurance and battery work makes doing 1 rep with 5 minutes rest feel like just gold. So I would say for like over the years, I think my strength has hovered around the same, but I've gotten better at some of the barbell like battery work.
Okay.
So from my own experience, I think with the coaches I've worked with that I've just naturally focused on building that more
Mm,
than over like total strength. But then again, caveat is that I was meeting the at least minimum strength requirements for the division that I want to compete in.
right, right. Yeah,
So I
because you
think
had
that's
kind of
important too.
yeah, you had already had that kind of buffer up, so you could build that barbell battery a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. That makes
So
sense.
it's like the athletes looking at it's like when you're getting into quarterfinals, what are the holes that you need to fill? Like that's what it becomes as you become more advanced. Like what are your weapons? You've essentially eliminated or fixed up and patched most of those holes to a point where it's passable,
Hmm.
and then you're building up your weapons so that you can really express those in competition because like you were saying before, it's a bit of a gamble with what's going to show up.
Yeah.
And it's easy, like I can even speak from my experience last year in semifinals.
Hmm.
I had like an absolutely like flawless for my own performance execution in semifinals, and I scored really well. I finished fourth,
Hmm.
and I also did get a good combination of workouts for how I had prepared for that season. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it is a little bit of a gamble. And you kind of have to assume that risk because, like what you were saying earlier, like you have a page full of weakness work, you know. So, um, it's just, and I've kind of told athletes that in the past is like, sometimes it's just going to be the way the cookie crumbles, and like you're going to get your shot at some point in time the longer you're in this sport. And like you just have to, the longer you're in, the more doors will open. And like, it might be one door year one, might be 2 years door,
Hmm.
year two, might be
Hmm.
5 doors year three. But like your door is going to open the longer you're in the sport, because you're just getting that many more testing bodies. And like it is a little bit of a Russian roulette wheel on or a, what do they call that one? What is it?
Yeah, yeah,
Roulette. Yeah,
yeah.
roulette.
Russian roulette.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's kind of a roulette wheel on the draw of workouts, and sometimes that that is what it takes for you to get your shot called.
Hmm. Hmm. And it doesn't negate the fact that you still need to train your weaknesses. And so, I,
Yes.
I can speak to that as well. Sometimes, like I'll say this once, it's the weighted kettlebell pistol squat that we had at the games this year just decimated me.
Yeah.
I have good enough, decent enough stability, just that movement under maximum fatigue, even though I showed up to that movement feeling pretty decent, just under that pressure. Again, you can get exposed, and it's just really how you, um, yeah, how you react in the face of that pain, because that's how
Yeah.
CrossFit is. I mean, there's so many things that you can be tested on, and
Yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah.
just
I do think another good thing that quarterfinal athlete wants to probably do inside, if they're really prepping to perform at quarterfinals as best as possible, is probably hit some sort of live 3 day competition inside of the January-February timeframe.
hmm.
I think quarterfinals directly after the Open this year. So if you're walking into quarterfinals, you hit something in the February timeframe. Now you get 6 weeks, early February. You get 6 weeks before quarterfinals happens. That's a great prep period as well, and you already got your intensity touches of pretty typically 2 workouts every single day. Quarterfinals might be spread out a little bit more than that, but um, I do think touching some sort of live competition in the January February timeframe just gets you that little bit of extra juice, gets you used to it, gets you kind of a little bit motivated again, maybe, and it can really be, I think, be helpful for putting some really good intensity inside of an online comp as well. So,
Yeah.
um, all right, maybe we
And
get in. Oh yeah, sorry. Do you have another point?
yeah, yeah, no, I just think before we started recording, you were mentioning the importance of training partners, and
Yeah,
that some people training individually, especially when you're focusing on tackling your own weaknesses, you don't always get that opportunity. Maybe on weekends when you've got the quote unquote throwdown opportunity to test your fitness and also just keep this fun, because, yeah, there is a lot of perhaps loneliness in training when no one's looking, when you're actually trying to get better. An important
yeah,
caveat: if you're trying to do the hardest form of fitness in the world for no reason, you're gonna have to get comfortable with that.
I
um,
yeah. I this is a little bit of a tangent, but one of my clients sent in a video of their finish of the coast qualifier workout, and in their gym, their assault bikes were just like set up facing their wall, and I just watched this guy for like 6 minutes biking on this bike, just staring into the wall. I'm like, dude, what a savage!
for no reason.
For
There's a
no
window
reason.
right there. It's a beautiful day. Look at the
So
birds, bro. It's okay.
yeah,
We're just fucking into the
just
wall.
staring straight into the wall. I was like, dude, that's a savage right there.
Just chalk line on the wall. You're a piece of shit. Fucking faster.
Faster. That's
That's
great.
amazing.
So yeah, I guess maybe the last little part before we get into the Masters athletes is, elite level athletes prepping for semifinals. Probably gonna, I think there is a peaking that probably needs to occur in semifinals, pending again how that structure is gonna look. I thought I read like top 2,000 move on
Yeah.
to quarterfinals.
So
So
what percentage is that? Like 10%?
so
Or
they,
it's
I
yeah.
guess in years past it was, I think, 7,500 were males made it to quarterfinals. So 2,000 out of 7,500 would be a little under 35%, I believe, like 27. Should I do the math on that really quick? Let's see if I get 2,000
Do,
divided
do,
by
do, 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 do.
26%. So basically another 25%, 25%, 25%. So obviously that's dependent on signups. Could be more or less, but um, it seems like there's probably going to be, and this I think we just kind of have to speculate on this a little bit, but it seems like there's probably going to be, 0 to 20 inside of the West again goes to Syndicate, 0 to 20 inside, or West is TFX, 0 to 20 in the East goes to Syndicate would be my guess, or 40. I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah.
Um, so it does seem like there needs to be a little bit of a peak for quarterfinals. I think there is a genetic 0.01% of the 1% even that gets to walk through.
Yeah.
But yeah, so kind of a peak for quarters and then another peak for semis. I think you can kind of talk on that's something you guys had to do last year as well, right?
Yeah, with quarters. Was that
Or
last year?
because you guys had semis into games, right? So it was almost, I know it was a little bit longer time horizon there, but you guys kind of did have to peak twice that year, right? Last year.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was semis. Yeah, the season, yeah, dragged out so far.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I don't know. You obviously can speak a little bit more on this, but I kind of liked having it a little bit longer time durations between each thing.
Yeah. I think yeah, I think there's two ways definitely to look at it for sure. One is yeah, you have more time. You're going to kind of get through the open and then you have it was a quick turnaround to peak this current year,
Hmm.
and from an anxiety perspective, it was nice to just get it out of the way. But
Yeah.
from an actual year over year performance boost, I think, like you were saying, having a bit more time to peak for that was definitely more ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, totally. So what were some of the things that you guys did for, I guess, two peaks throughout the year, um, peaking in May and then peaking it again in August?
Yeah, so peaking in May looked a lot like, for me personally, it was building up all of my weaknesses to that point,
Hmm.
and then taking 1 to 2 weeks before to taper off and start practicing and doing simulations for what could be tested based on what we know. Like you said, a lot of it is like a crapshoot. So you're just going to take a weekend, maybe 2 weeks out, and do some sort of simulation tests of multiple workouts over what you're going to be expecting. So just practicing the volume and intensity that you might be tested on a couple weeks before the actual event occurs.
Hmm.
So, like you were saying before too, is getting some sort of in-person competition can be so valuable, going head to head
Yeah.
with people, getting just getting out of your gym and getting out of what becomes some people's comfort zone. I can
Yeah.
even speak for that myself. It's so easy, especially when you're running your own program, to give just enough of the threshold to, pass the workout. So your coach is like, oh, okay, yeah, that's like decent enough. He must not have been sleeping. Um, but to like actually get out there and can show yourself,
Yeah.
and be vulnerable, because yeah, I know. So anyway, yeah. So the preparation can look like that. So some sort of simulation
Hmm.
leading up to that, and just making sure you're getting touches on all the movements that you could be tested on, right? We have a pretty good idea of what weekly volume might look like for semifinals or, higher percentage quarterfinals athletes looks like.
Hmm.
There's a certain amount of touches per week that you're going to want to get on each movement. and in the right combinations, in the right time domains, and packaging that all together so that when the weekend does come, that you're able to perform your best.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are all great points. Like, that sounds like a pretty. It is a detailed process, and it's not just like hey, I'm just gonna take it easy for 2 weeks here. Like, there's definitely some thought that goes into kind of peaking and making sure that you're, ready to go. So what'd you guys do for your second one then, in regards to peaking for the games?
Yeah, so we again, like training for each athlete will look a little bit different. So there's a lot of kind of continuing on as usual as you lead up to another sort of game simulation weekend.
Hmm.
That's going to be 3 days of, again, higher intensity, higher skill tests with now practicing how you might strategize for that workout based on your current skill level and your own athletic build. So, how you're going to be approaching those workouts, and again, making sure you're touching on all of the volume that you might see in a weekend test at the game. So,
Yeah.
I feel like what I'm saying a lot is kind of repeating what the semifinals peaks might
Yeah.
look like, but from your own perspective too, like how from a coaching programming perspective are you thinking about making tweaks for those specific weekends?
Yeah, I mean, games is a little. I feel like with a semifinals or online semifinals, it's like or quarterfinals. Like, I think the big kind of overarching picture we're looking at for athletes that are looking to kind of peak in quarterfinals is, or sorry, for athletes that are looking to compete at semifinals, just making sure you're really peaked. I think if you're competing at that level, you probably have a coach at this point in time who has you guys have really dialed in like what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, you've worked on them, etc. So I think at this point for those athletes, it's like you kind of been saying, Mike, is just making sure you're ready to go on game day. And like I think with online semifinals, hitting some sort of online competition, kind of like what we were talking about with quarterfinals, is doing some sort of online competition preps you super well for quarterfinals. The games, I actually think that like stuff like finding a road race or maybe even like a Spartan race to do just puts a little bit more athleticism and kind of the weird stuff into it.
Mm-hmm.
That might be for like games level. You guys had a little
Yeah.
bit more traditional kind of CrossFit stuff,
Yeah.
but I think finding some sort of weird thing to do in that build up is super important for the games preparation. But yeah, like same thing. Like you guys have probably identified what some areas of weakness are at this point in time. The sport is interesting where like in traditional sports like NFL or NBA, there's like, okay, we didn't make NBA finals this year because the team that we played went all big and we're a small team, and so they outsized us. So we got to come back, make adjustments, get some taller athletes, and then go out on the court this next year. And there is some chaos to it, right? But you have a pretty good
Absolutely.
idea of what your team's lacking. But man, in CrossFit, it's kind of just like it's so hard to get there back there year after year, and like you might assess what you did last year and be like, okay, these are the things that we have to change to get you better for next year, and then the tests just completely flip on themselves, and you're like, oh cool, everything I just prepped for is null and void. you know
And yeah, I think an important comment on all of what we've said to this point is that our speculation and our inability to speak in absolutes should bring peace to people's mind
Mhm.
because there is just so much uncertainty,
Yeah.
and I think everyone's still just kind of figuring it out as they go. I feel the sport hasn't been around that long enough to be like we have a really good idea of like tests in the previous time, but
Mhm.
from like a sports science perspective, it's like we're still just kind of figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
Even from an athlete perspective, I try and it's like so much happens in a single week, in a single month. Like I
Yeah.
forget what I even did last training cycle, dude. Like I think we tested Echo Bike, but it's like there was a progression that was important,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of chaos inside of the sport. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you were saying, is like once you're at the semis and beyond level, it's you're really testing adaptability under chaos, like the odd objects, swimming,
Yep.
things like back-to-back sessions, and those back-to-back sessions might look a little bit different than they were in the previous training cycle, because
Yeah.
that's just what we know is tested. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I've learned as an athlete, spending a lot of time in the sport, doing the sport,
Yeah.
makes you better. Like I've been fortunate to be successful early on as a masters athlete,
Mm-hmm.
and but I'm still figuring it out, man.
Yeah.
I'm still very much and will always be, a student of the game, and I know that you subscribe to that as well. I think that's why we have such good dialogue, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like, just for the listeners, it's like we're still figuring it out as we go, and
Yeah.
we have pretty good information, and are
Yeah.
able to assist people day to day. But yeah, from like
Yeah.
a big picture perspective, it's like we're just taking the information that we've gotten, and lean on the people who are really involved in this current moment to really take the next steps. That's my
Yeah.
tangent. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. The chaos thing is just like you hit the nail on the head with that. That's actually something that I've been preaching to some of my athletes lately. Is like, hey, this sport is chaos, and like I think a lot of people really, and everybody, right? Everyone wants to have control over things in their life, right? But like, if to excel in this sport, you have to be comfortable living in chaos, because it like you can't control what the workouts are going to be that come out. You can't control the equipment that's at a competition. You can't, like, we were just down at Beach Brawl this last weekend. You can't control the weather. Like, it's hot
Yeah.
as shit. So there's just so many variables in the sport that you just can't control. And, like, you want to minimize for them, or prepare for everything as best as possible, so you kind of narrow that chaos field down so it's not as broad, right? But if you can just be comfortable living in the chaos of competition, man, you're going to go so much farther in the sport.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you can subscribe to that, it's the hardest form of exercise
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Like, just all the things that you're going to want to be good at that require. I mean, you're human, man. We look at getting good at these skills like a robot. Okay, I've got my list of weightlifting, capacity, and gymnastics, and if I just add 2% to each of these, I'll be good for next year. It's like, nah, man. If you have any life stress, and like, it just doesn't work that way. So yeah, take a
Yeah.
breath, and yeah, like you said, accept living in the chaos, and being willing to work when no one's looking will set you up. If you're that person that's not quite willing to go there, it's still okay to be competitive at a quarterfinals level and enjoy weekend competitions. Like, this is a good bridging conversation to have with yourself. And yeah, if you don't have a coach, good luck getting beyond there, because it's just with the chaos, managing chaos, it's going to be a nightmare, and you're going to burn out and quit and hate it. And it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So maybe before we kind of wrap things up here, one of the kind of newer, unique things for Masters athletes is they're going to be competing at in-person semifinals this year. It also, did I read this correctly? Like, you'll have the opportunity to qualify through online semifinals, is right?
Yeah.
As well for Masters.
Yeah,
Okay.
both.
So it's
Yeah.
both this year. What are your thoughts on like, obviously we don't completely know the format yet, but if it's kind of a one or the other thing, I'm probably going to be able to do both. But if it's kind of a one or the other thing, or just in regards to like peaking purposes, maybe your semifinal is a week out from online semifinals. What do you think is like a good judge for, hey, should I try and attack the online or should I try and attack an in-person and qualify for one of these in-person events?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think going back to the importance of getting into head to head competitions at some point in the season is going to be really important. If I looked back at my season last year, I didn't compete enough. I was comfortable and I was loving training. Like there is nothing better than getting into a training block and just week after week crushing it, checking in with the coach and just seeing progress there. But it doesn't negate the fact that you need to get out of your comfort zone, out of your gym and into a competition setting. So I think this is a good opportunity for people who maybe haven't competed enough leading up to that point to get in there, because that's going to give you a good idea of where you're at in the
Yeah.
season to that point. And I think I don't know, it shouldn't have too much wear and tear. There's only going to be 30 athletes, moving on
Hmm.
to the games from the in-person and online combined. So
Hmm.
yeah, we'll have to see what that format looks like, but I think it could be a good opportunity. It could be a good idea, and I guess it's going to depend on the athlete too. If you're a top 10 athlete, maybe they're just going to do the online and just train
Hmm.
for the games, but I don't know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the format's obviously like a big question, and this might be a podcast for another discuss or for another time. But I when I was competing, actually, I absolutely fucking hated training. I despised
Really?
it. I just wanted to go to the competition and just hammer. But I knew it was like kind of a
Nice.
means to an end. Training was a means to an end, and I shouldn't say I hated it, but I was definitely like, I'm doing this because I know when I go out to the competition floor, it's going to make me better. And my concept was the sport is the live competition. It's not so much what's done inside the gym. But Brandon Dorman actually put some perspective on this. He's like, football players play for, I think it was like 12 minutes in a game, a 60-minute game.
Yeah.
They practice like 99% of the time, and then they get their 17 12-minute windows throughout the course of an entire year. I can't remember, what couple hours, right? He put that into perspective one time for me, and that really clicked in regards to like being good at training and then making that transfer over to the game, to the sport, right? So that was, sorry, a little bit of a tangent there, but I think
No.
I think knowing yourself and which environment you perform better in. So like, I think people that might enjoy training a little bit more might perform a little bit better inside of their gym and inside of an atmosphere that they're comfortable with. They have their people there. It's not like this crazy high energy. And I think people that are a little bit more apt to go to a competition or live competition or just get the adrenaline dump from it or whatever it might be, right? In person might be a little bit better for you. I always felt like there was just an extra level I could reach at a live competition. It was just like you're so dialed into that time. You're taken out of your monotony of like, going to okay, here I go, show up to the gym again today, put in the work. And it kind of just, for an online semifinals, it just kind of felt like it was just going through the motions again. So maybe if you're like the type of individual that likes breaking the monotony with things, like a live competition might be something you're kind of trying to prep for versus online semifinals. I don't know what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, well, no, I shared it, and I think that it's funny that you bring that up, and I think that it just it speaks to the many different types of athletes that
Totally.
exist in this space that can compete at a high level, and also maybe that's just different ways of cope. Like
Yeah.
maybe we just want to be the guy biking, staring into the
Yeah.
cement wall.
Yeah.
We could explain some different athlete types that thrive in the sport that show up differently.
Yeah.
And yeah, so again, I think it just comes back to you perhaps understood the amount of chaos and discomfort that is going to be experienced for a long period of time in one single gym. And it's like, holy shit, that's what it requires of me to do well when I can get under the lights and go head to head with someone and actually feel like, okay, if I'm this much ahead in a workout, I can actually chill out a bit,
Mm-hmm.
earn that shit,
Yeah, yeah,
earn
yeah,
that opportunity.
yeah. Um, yeah, I think that might be another fun podcast to do. Just kind of dive into that and just like chat about that a little bit more. But yeah, I think a lot of what we're talking about is speculation right now, just based off of some of the formats that are coming out. But we definitely wanted to give you guys an idea of just some, you know, get the ball rolling and get the head spinning. Personally, as a coach, like it's really tough to see people, um, just disappointed in their performances here. Like that's what just eats at me is watching people just be disappointed about their performance. And like the only way to not be disappointed about your performance is preparation. And like now's the time when you need to come in and you need to start prepping for whatever competition it is you want to do in the year, and like setting yourself up for success 6 months down the road. Not, oh shit, the Open's around. I've got 4 weeks until quarterfinals.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
any last thoughts, Mike? Or
No, I think that if you guys are looking for a coach, you should definitely hit up Kyle.
thank you.
I don't work with him individually, and I just think he brings so much great perspective as previously a high level athlete, but also someone who can share a really good perspective around strategizing a workout. He's someone who I spoke about in the last episode that shared really good insight for the semifinals Masters games last year, and I took a lot of that away and it helped me perform. So thank you again for
Yeah,
that.
for
And
sure, for sure. Yeah,
I just
so
think
awesome
that
to see.
having a coach is very important, and if you want to exceed beyond quarterfinals, um, embrace the chaos, and you don't have to do it alone. Do it with
Yeah,
Kyle.
yeah, yeah. That's very true. Well, thanks again for coming on, Mike. Appreciate all the
Yeah.
kind words at the end there. So,
Yeah,
if you
man.
guys haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Mike, how do people find your podcast as well?
Yeah, so I run the Eagle's Eye podcast. Kyle has been on it before, and you can also follow me on Instagram at Mike underscore E23, I think. So thanks for that, man.
Yeah, just do the account search; it'll pop up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. Yeah, if you need a coach, reach out. But we'll please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.